John ask you about that?
Let's officially call this work session meeting of the Mayor and Council to order. This time I would ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silent prayer and or reflection as we think about the Ascona family and the city of Newark. Please salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note the fire exits out the back door into the main hallway. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this act, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Milford have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall. Notices have been sent to the record in the Ridgewood News. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy that will safeguard infrastructure, provide fair, honest, courteous, and professional services, establish a sense of trust and accomplishment between all residents, and through research and prudent planning seek to minimize risk while improving our services. We are sensitive to the needs and satisfaction of our taxpayers, while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. At this time, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilwoman Sandhusen.
Here.
Councilman Simon.
Here.
Council President Duffy.
Here.
Councilman Brodsky.
Here.
Councilman Seymour.
Here.
Councilwoman Grant.
Here.
Mayor Patrino.
Here. All right, we have a couple proclamations up first tonight. The first one is for Women's History Month. Office of the Mayor Proclamation. Whereas, Women's History Month was first observed in 1981 and is now recognized worldwide to celebrate women's achievements and empowerment. And whereas throughout our history, despite hardship, exclusion, and discrimination, women have strived and sacrificed for equality and equity in communities across the country, and have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation and our local communities in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. Whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical role in the economic, cultural, social, and business environments in every sphere of life. Whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of providing the majority of volunteer labor force. Whereas American women are particularly important in the establishment of early, charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions. Whereas American women have always served to defend our freedom and our country courageously in the military, at home, and abroad. Whereas American women serve as police officers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, and in all capacities that work to protect life, property, health, and safety of residents and communities across the nation. And whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also have contributed significantly to all other major movements to create a more fair, equal, and just society for all. And whereas this Women's History Month, as we reflect on the achievements of American women across centuries and pay tribute to the pioneers who paved the way, let us recommit to the fight and help realize the deeply American vision of a more equal society and carry forward the mission of ensuring our daughters have the same opportunities as our sons. Now therefore I, Michael J. Patrino, Mayor of the Borough of the Milford, do hereby proclaim March 2025 Women's History Month and urge all residents and businesses to appropriately honor the significant contributions, achievements, and impact women have had and continue to make on our great country and community.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I say that perhaps you could send a copy of that to Mr. Hegseth, who's the Secretary of Defense? He's removing all references to women's achievements in the services from their website, and he is not allowing girls who live with their parents on various bases throughout the world to engage in STEM courses. Only boys will be allowed to do that. So things are getting very difficult. And I just want people to be aware that while we are celebrating this, there are forces that are working against women and their achievements and their futures.
Duly noted.
I second it.
If you'd like to put up the postage, I will give it to you and you can mail it.
I'd be delighted to do. I'd be happy to put up the postage. Would you like to write a cover letter? Or We can write the cover letter.
I think you should write the cover letter.
Fine, I'll sign it. Okay.
Okay, we have Poison Prevention Week. Where are we going to send this one? Whereas
Just
Congress
downstairs.
designated the third full week of
Word
March
out.
to be National Poison Prevention Week. In 1961, and since then, this week has helped to raise national awareness of the dangers of potentially dangerous medicines, household products, and chemicals, environmental contaminants, and other substances. And whereas poison control centers across the country will focus on the public's attention on free, life-saving services provided by poison centers, as well as educating the public on ways to prevent poisoning exposures. And whereas the New Jersey Poison Control Center, a division of the Department of Emergency Medicine at Rutgers University Medical School, provides 24/7 expert poison treatment advice, drug information, and prevention education at no cost to the public through the Poison Help Hotline. And whereas New Jersey Poison Control Center specialized medical professionals, doctors, pharmacists, and nurses provide accessible, free, and confidential poisoning medical treatment advice and information to all. And whereas unintentional poisoning is the leading cause of unintentional death in New Jersey and in the United States. Whereas a poison is defined as anything that can cause harm if taken in the wrong amount, in the wrong way, or by the wrong person. And whereas although most reported poison exposures involve children 5 years old and younger, most poisoning deaths occur in adults ages 20 to 59. Whereas overdose deaths from prescription opioids, over-the-counter medications, and illegal drugs remain at epidemic proportions for both New Jersey and our country. Whereas poison center experts encourage the public not to guess, wait for symptoms, or waste time looking up medical information online when potential poison exposures occur, but to call 1-800-222-1222. Whereas all residents should save the Poison Control Center's hotline in their cell, home, and office phones, because a fast response can make all the difference in preventing serious injury and saving lives. Now therefore I, Michael Petrino, Mayor of the Borough of New Milford, do hereby proclaim the week of March 16th through the 22nd, 2025 as Poison Prevention Week, and encourage all citizens to pledge their commitment to ensuring the safety of themselves, their families, and their community. Okay. So, let's take a sip now. It'd be ironic if there's poison in the coffee right now.
Oh,
Anyway.
Tony. We have the number.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up to be the tester.
May I get a motion to appoint Janet Mammon to the Mayor's Wellness Campaign Committee and Thad Hodo to Recreation Advisory Committee?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, Janet and Thad. We look forward to your service. Under unfinished business, may I get approval of the minutes from the February 24th, 2025 closed and public session meetings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Okay, may I get a motion to table ordinance 2025:9 until our April 7th meeting? The reason for doing that is we need to get a response from the planning board on the fence ordinance. So moved.
Second.
May I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilwoman Sam Houston.
Yes.
Councilman Zommer.
Yes.
Council President Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Brodsky.
Yes.
Councilman Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Grant.
Yes.
As I mentioned, the public hearing on this ordinance, we believe will be at our April 7th meeting. Okay, up for adoption tonight is 2025:10, and when the clerk has the opportunity, I'd ask you to please read the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 7 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of New Milford entitled Traffic, thereby amending subsection 7-3.4 entitled Parking Prohibited During Certain Hours on Certain Streets.
The purpose of this ordinance is to rescind parking restrictions on Monmouth Avenue, Stockton Street, and Trenton Street. This, as I mentioned last time, was a result of those parking restrictions were set up for commuters parking in front of homes, and that hasn't been the case in a couple of years, so the residents had asked if we could take a look at it, and we did, and we're going to make the change. Making a motion to open to the public for a public hearing on this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding this ordinance, now is your opportunity to come forward. Seeing that no member of the public wishes to come forward at this time, I'd ask for a motion to close the public.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I get a motion to adopt this ordinance on its final reading?
Motion. Second.
May I get a roll call, please?
Councilwoman San Houston.
Yes.
Councilman Zama.
Yes.
Council President Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky.
Yes.
Councilman Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graham.
Yes.
Okay, under new business, we have an introduction tonight. It's ordinance 2025:11. And the clerk has the opportunity to ask her please read the ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing an emergency appropriation pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-53.
The purpose of this ordinance is to appropriate $40,000 for the preparation of the MS4 Stormwater Infrastructure Map, which shall be deemed a special emergency appropriation and provided for by NJS 40A.
We'll be being required to do this by the state?
Yes.
So may I get a motion to introduce this ordinance on its first reading?
So, second.
Make it a roll call, please.
Councilwoman San Houston.
Yes.
Councilman Zama.
Yes.
Council President Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky.
Yes.
Councilman Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graham.
Yes.
Public hearing for this ordinance will be at our March 26th meeting. I think we're lucky we get to finance that over 5 years. 5 years.
And it doesn't start until next year.
Yes. Item number 1 is Fire Department Safer Grant. Are there any members of the Fire Department here?
Oh. Thank you, Art. No, they're out there.
The schedule of events is getting busy.
Want to share for me?
Yes.
Sure.
I'll let you sit there. You're basically the answer, man.
That works.
We're here to keep you honest.
Happens. Oh, God. That's fine. That's fine. First off, thank you for supporting the cancer bill. I think most of us wholeheartedly support that. It's been going on for a while.
We actually didn't do that yet, so don't talk.
Well, when you get to that, thank you in advance for supporting the cancer bill. While we're also on that subject, though, I'll give you a 3845 and 2632 as a companion bill in the Senate. That's before the Senate was introduced in February, and goes over a number of things on the recruitment and retention side. So the state of Delaware and the state of New Jersey both commissioned a recruitment study using a number of people. I can send that to you offline, but came up with a number of recommendations for legislative action, and that bill is basically the legislative response to it. That's from the other day. That's basically the legislative response to it. What is a $750 stipend for per month for new recruits to cover the 6 months that they're in the academy, as well as a $1,000 property tax gross income tax deduction statewide for volunteers that do at least 100 hours of community service, and a number of other things, incentivizing tuition reimbursement and a bunch of other things that's in there. So we're definitely going to support it, and we would ask for the council to do the same.
Is this related to?
That's a comprehensive recruitment and retention bill statewide, because they have, in response to the study, they saw, what the issues are statewide, and they're trying to address them.
So you want a copy of that?
What?
You want a copy?
Of that bill?
No.
Or of this?
Of the-
Ralph's got one.
I think it's fine.
So, Safer Grant. So we have discussed this for, many of us for the past several years since I was chief in 2022. And it's been brought up by a number of chiefs in the past. We got pretty much have exhausted all of our AFG things that we can do right now from the AFG program. We've been lucky enough through Firehouse grants to bring in close to $2 million over the past 8 years. We thank the council for that support. But we've done very well compared to how other places in New Jersey have done, as well as really good, federally, from a reimbursement standpoint. $2 million is no, and reimbursement from AFG is no, nothing to look down upon. Part of what we're looking to do here is really, it's a 10-year plan. Many moons ago, I sat at a table at the ambulance corps, and we had as a lieutenant, we had a big discussion about manpower, rigs on the road, and I said one thing, and I said, make no mistake, this is our problem. It's not the borough's problem, it's not the taxpayers' problem, it's not the citizens' problem, it's not the mayor and council's problem. I said we should come up with a plan to present to the council that fixes our problem. I said because without it, the mayor and council is going to make some difficult decisions, and you may not be part of the solution to that problem. All right? And they didn't take me up on that, but here we are several years later, and we all know, how that rabbit hole went down. While we are not in dire straits right now, I think that we are going down that road, just as every other municipal department that's volunteer in the state is, as well as every other state in the nation. Manpower nationally has dropped, and average call volume nationally has risen by 10-15%, if not more, year over year. Like it is booming, and there are less and less people to do it. Along with, since 2008, we all know what happened with the recession, and then with the inflation that came after it, it is increasingly harder for everybody to do what they did at the time on one salary, to move into the borough. The days of a 20-something, having enough capital to move into the borough and be able to not only volunteer but to be able to support a house in this town is very, very difficult. And a number of towns in the area have done a lot to rectify that situation, but we think it's all part of a comprehensive plan. I'll speak for Company 2. I mean, as far as the last couple of years, we've lost way more people than we've brought on. And 99% of them are under the age of 30. They're the people we need. And the reason that they left, most of them, was because they had children, they got married, they moved out of town to West Milford and various other Passaic County towns because they could not afford to live in this town. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they would have to, part of rectifying this problem is recognizing how we overcome that barrier. And this really is the 10-year plan. And I do think that a comprehensive stipend, recruitment, and retention program gets us into the next 10 years, at least. Part of the first thing on the first page, marketing and recruitment campaign. That's $92,750 over the life of the grant. And if you go to page 2, I'll just quickly run over what that is for you. This is a company called Communication Solutions Group. They're out of Pennsylvania. They work very closely with volunteer fire and EMS, and they pretty much do this day and night. So they come and have a visioning session with us. They meet with us, come up with a marketing plan and how the messaging is going to be branded. They come out and do photo and video shoots and that's for recruitment, for the recruitment program, for advertising, and for our website and all parts of the following campaign. Part of what they're doing is targeted social media advertising. They create the content, they post it for delivery, and they really work on growing your number of followers. So from a fire department standpoint, I think our Facebook and our social media is great. We have a lot of followers. I'd say that 95% of them, though, are not your lay townspeople. They're, hey, the guy from Warrendale Fire Department, or the guy from Riverbridge, or fire departments following the page. So it's not necessarily all of the people who we're trying to get our message out to. So one of the things that we really need is targeted social media advertising. I've run campaigns in the past, brief little ones, because they threw a couple dollars at us for free, as far as like the fundraiser that we did for Christmas, that we do $5 and Santa comes and delivers them. I've posted those at an advertising rate, and from like age 25 to 40 in the borough only, targeting moms and dads, and it did very well. And it was like, but it's like, $40 a day, $50 a day. It goes up and down depending on how many people are falling into that bucket. So really what we need is a targeted social media advertising program, in this case, for that, and it comes with the content creation and delivery. They write, design, and launch a standalone recruitment website. So most of what they did is join newmilfordfire.org. And rather than being coupled with our regular website, it can drive to that website, but it's more of a very targeted, messaging-specific website for recruitment. Along the same lines, they design, print, and do targeted mailings of recruitment brochures and postcards. They do it on an alternating year. One year they'll send out the postcard to all the residents. Next year they'll send out the brochure, and vice versa, every other year for the 4 years. They do that via targeted mailing list for the same thing. What are you trying to target? 14 years old to, 45 years old, 53 years old, which is our cutoff for joining within 3 miles of the borough, which is our which is our cutoff as far as the distance for joining in that. And they would target that directly to them. Creation, print, and delivery of recruitment lawn signs. We've done very well as far as we did lawn signs probably 10 years ago when Jerry Nolan was chief, and we got a pretty good turnout as far as people interested in joining. I wouldn't say there was a good conversion rate as far as those that came in the door, but at least it got the message out, and we did do very well off of that. Same thing, we had updated the sign at River Edge and River, and we've brought in a number of people through that sign. On average, I get maybe 60 to 80, information requests a year through the website. Many people say they saw the sign or the banners that we put up on River Road and Boulevard throughout the year. So it's really in delivering the message better and trying to convert those people. Creation, fabrication, and delivery of a booth display for events like National Night Out. So they'll do a whole display with side banners and stuff, going over everything that we want to say.
Fire Awareness Day?
Yeah, Fire Awareness Day, National Night Out, all the usual things that we've been coming up with to do throughout the year. Creation, fabrication, generation of press releases and publicity, contacting of local reporters to pitch stories. So they will work very diligently on print, electronic, and broadcast. They contact the reporters, pitch a story. Hey, the fire department's doing this. Would you like to write about it? Blah, blah. Trying to get it out there. And they've had good response in that. But they do quarterly press releases regardless, for whatever. Like, hey, change your clock, change your battery time, or just change your battery. If we don't have to change our clocks next year, I guess we'll see how it pans out. They do a recruitment training workshop with personnel. It's all great and everything, but if my guys don't know how to push the right message, then they may turn that person off that came over for 30 seconds, right? So part of it is a good workshop for what to say, what not to say, and the do's and don'ts, and how to push your overall vision and get them in the door. Banners, the same thing. It would be new banners to deliver the right message. They do recruitment at sponsored sports and community events, so they will take some of that money and maybe sponsor the Little League, put up a banner at Connolly or whatever, and also engage whoever it is that's running the community events that they see, like ShopRite. If ShopRite's doing a thing and they see it upcoming, they're going to call ShopRite and say, hey, can the fire department participate, and have that booth set up and push their message. But they've had good things with that. And then last thing in this is a monthly content creation, success stories, upload photos, and SEO. So they're going to do very good search engine optimization to make sure that we stay at the top of the people's search results. But also, they write monthly stories and they keep our feeds regularly updated so that it doesn't get stale. We try and do it on a regular basis. I know many of you have seen some of the posts. They're not always written the way I'd love to see them written, and by the time I get to them to make them, I don't know, just a little bit more English or a little bit more better grammar or better worded to make us look a little better, it's a little bit late, but, they're going to write these messages, make sure they're branded correctly, that almost everything that goes out is pushed to the overall vision of bringing more people in. At the green spot at the bottom, it kind of goes over a couple areas that have used them. Tom's River saw 129 online applications. They brought in 25 new members in their first year. Obviously, Tom's River is big, comparably in size to us. But as a short town, or close to a short town, they have similar issues with, transient, seasonal population and stuff like that. So that's, it's good to see this kind of numbers for that kind of department. Deptford Township, 189 online applications and 49 new members since 2020. Ringing Hill, which is a small in PA, I think that was 35 new members during the 4-year campaign from 2020 to 2024. Jenkinstown, 73 online applications, 25 new members in 4 years, and West Manchester, 47 new members since last March.
Are there any towns in New Jersey or in Bergen County other than the that you mentioned?
Not that So in New Jersey, what she had written, Deptford, East Freehold, Gloucester, Gordon Corners, I'm not sure that is, Hanover Township, Hopewell Valley, Jackson Fire District, Lawrence Harbor, Moorestown, Princeton, Rocky Hill, Ship Bottom. They're centered, I think their office is close to Pittsburgh, Jenkinstown, close to Pittsburgh, so they have that South Jersey, that corner population. But the reason why this was recommended by the grant writer, he works very closely with them. He thinks their program works. He's comfortable writing it with them in mind because he thinks that we'll get a good return on investment from them specifically. I'm sure there's others out there. I had a very good meeting with her for about an hour going over all of our intricacies, and she wrote up a really great proposal that kind of took into account all those things. Very specifically, they want us to get into, obviously we're going to get into the schools very heavily. Part of it is getting into the high school, getting into the middle school, trying to get that 14 to 18 Explorer crowd and junior crowd. We've talked about it many, many times in the past. That has always been the lifeblood of the fire department, and those are the people we see converting and becoming lifelong members, so we definitely want to not miss out on that. So they also, they make targeted brochures directly for the high school and middle school population, so that we can get out that message in an age-appropriate manner, and really try and get them posted beforehand. And it's also going to do, the part of the training workshops is pulling those kids aside that are already juniors and teaching them how to go out and spread the word to their friends, and get out the younger population. So that's the social media portion of it.
That was, what social media platforms do they use?
Currently right now they'll use whatever we're using. Right now we are very heavily into, obviously Instagram and Facebook. I think we do have a Twitter account. I don't even know if it's active anymore. I'd have to look into. We haven't posted anything on it in a very long time because I don't even know who the manager is of it. Then I'm gonna have to call Elon to try and take it over. But nothing's been posted on it in years and years and years and years and years. But it's out there.
It's out there.
There's the TikToks and I'm not trying to go there. I think Instagram and Facebook are pretty much our target audience, and I think that pretty much encompasses most people who look at that on a regular basis.
What about some of these new things, Blue Sky and some of these others that have come out recently?
Sure. Yeah, Blue Sky, Threads.
Right.
What's the other one? There's a couple of them out there that we could definitely look into. Surely if there's somebody managing it and pushing out the same message, it's a lot more manageable. They just 1, 2, 3, post. Our website used to have some integration where if I posted it on Facebook, it's instantly on the website. That's no longer. So it's very difficult to, at work, I can just add something real quick when I see that there's a call. I can't, and then I can just quickly copy and paste it post it on Instagram also. Try getting on our website, I gotta go somewhere, log in, download the pictures, upload them to the website. It takes much more time than, something that has to wait till I get home, or I try and do it like once a week. Right. So that's why the website's not as updated as I'd like it to be. So part of that, obviously, is going to be working with them to try and improve those plugins and make it much more automated, so we don't have to worry about that. But Safer is really, obviously, it's the staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. It is really born towards volunteer recruitment and retention, where AFG is more born towards apparatus and equipment. So a lot of their items in the notice of funding opportunity is all based on recruitment and retention. So they will pay for marketing recruitment, so that marketing plan is $92,750 over the life of the grant. They will pay for physicals, so right now we're paying about $135 to AMPM Urgent Care. They still have the option if they want, but they don't usually take advantage of it. It's not really necessary going to Holy Name. Part of the issue with Holy Name, why we pulled AMPM and Urgent Care, and also, well, it's cheaper. Holy Name charges like $160 or something like that now, and AMPM's $135. And the hours were terrible. Like the hours of Holy Name were like 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday. There's no late nights. There's no time for anyone who works odd hours to go. AMPM Urgent Care, they can go to Norwood. There's like 5 offices, but they can go to Norwood, or there's one in Bergenfield. They can go at midnight if they want, 3 o'clock in the morning, and make it easy. Sure. So part of what you saw coming through the Department of Labor and the League of Municipalities, all these OSHA kind of regulations for firefighters that are kind of up in the air. One of the stipulations that was floating around in there is whether they would require an NFPA 1592 physical, which is basically requires, it's a normal physical plus a pulmonary function test and an EKG, which then you can imagine takes the price from $135 to about $1,500 or more. It's very akin to our hazmat physicals, which Ralph will tell me I think we're at $1,700. Yeah. So it's much more in the range of $1,500 to $2,000 now than it is $135. So we don't have to do that currently, but if the regulations change, on the Fed or on the state level from POSHA, we may have to go there with new recruits to begin with. This would fund 3 recruits at that level to begin with. And I can adjust all these. So now that we just got the hazmat physical information, so I'm going to adjust that to 2,000.
3 recruits a year.
So I talked to him about this today. Everything, I'll get into it as I go, but if you bring in 1 in the first year, if the money carries over. The money's the money. If you get, so 18,000 total, I'm going to make it 6,000, so it'll be 24,000. So that 24,000 will be for the life of the grant. So you could do 1 person this year and 3 people next year. You have 24,000.
The money carries over.
The money carries over. Same thing with the everything later. So turnout gear, averaging 3 recruits in the first year. We put in 6,000. Ordell got this grant last year with the turnout gear. They requested $6,200 or $6,400 per set. FEMA knocked them down to $5,800 a set. I put in 6 a set, and we'll see where they go. They may knock it down to $5,800 a set, but I mean we can surely, $200 a set is something that we can absorb and figure out.
What are you guys recruiting right now per year?
I can tell you from company 2 last year we brought in 2, and 1's already gone because he had to move out of town. The other one, company 1 brought in 3. Conti?
We brought in 3 last year. We have 1 that's actually coming on this month. Junior that turns 18 in the middle of the month, which we're at the 18th.
The reason I'm asking is,
Yeah.
what if you have more than 3?
Well, so we could front load a lot more of the money, right? So you have 24,000. If we need to front load it, we can front load it, but it'll come out of what we planned for the following years.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't want you to be
Sure,
successful.
sure.
What I'm saying is, if you recruit more than you're intending, then
This
not going to be enough money.
is
to cover.
pretty much the max that you can request, which is why we did go with the max. Ordell actually did 2, 2, 3, 3. I made it 3.
Did Ordell get the grant?
They did, and I made it 3 across the board
Because you
because I
didn't
did
list
this
them
one
on here.
That's not a sacred thing. The next one goes into that. This isn't who got the grant.
Oh.
That's not who got the grant. That's who's paying stipends, but I'll get there in a second. Station wear, obviously we provided last year through the uniform allowance. We bought everybody a new button-down shirt. We're trying to get everybody uniform, especially for all the events we're doing. The Easter egg hunt and all the stuff that we've been doing since COVID. They're great and all, but I as well as you guys, I'm sure, would rather people aren't in cargo shorts and a t-shirt, and this one's in that shirt, and this one's in this shirt. And,
Professional look.
yeah. So Jerry got everyone a new set of station wear last year. This would pay for the same 3 recruits to get all those station wear. Non-uniform apparel incentives, this is really a bonus, right? So this is for, hey, you are the top call taker from each company. You're the most improved. Your percentage last year was terrible, and this year you've improved the most. To go out and get them a job shirt with their name on it, or a jacket with their name, or whatever, a fire department jacket. So that would just be incentive money, and that's, we can play with that. That's one of those things where I can play with the money a little bit to get to where the max of what they'll allow us to put in for that. LoSAP reimbursement. So it will cover the price for additional LoSAP to the tune of, I just put in what we have right now, and Dave's looking into, the way I wrote it was obviously 3 in the first year, 3 more in the second year with the first 3, just compounding it. He believes that that's correct. He's just going to make sure that is correct, but I do believe that that would be correct. They're not going to fund it for the first year and then pull the funding for the second year. But he's getting me the final on that one. Recruitment and retention coordinator, the grant funds, obviously somebody needs to figure out all the percentages for this. It's not a short, it's a good part-time gig. It is something that's going to spend, somebody's going to spend a little bit of time on a monthly basis. So that is funded. So it's a $3,000 stipend for that person to write all of this, either submit it to FEMA and do all the necessary paperwork, or we'll talk about how, what we've done in the past as far as Firehouse grants supporting some of that work. The last one, I'll skip over stipend for a minute, we'll come back. Leadership training, there is, obviously, you'll see many of us, you've seen our face before in many roles, from lieutenant to chief, and you see us coming back again every other year. So we've had to, as far as who's eligible to be an officer and who's going to take this department into the future is dwindling, and we'd like to incentivize that. One of the things that they will do is pay for leadership training for people to go out to the Fire Department Instructors Conference, which most of the time is in Indianapolis, although, it's been moved before, and put them through the class. It's great. There's a number of leadership classes, instructor classes out there, and it really is good for the officers or anyone who wants to be. And they would fully fund those trips, so I just got to see what the max is that we can ask for in there, but we can figure that out over time. And finally is monthly stipend program reimbursement. FEMA and the SAFER program will fund up to $50,000 per year, but we'll just call it $200,000 in total. That does roll over. So if we only use $25,000 in the first year, based on the way the program's written, the money would keep growing. So you have a $200,000 pot over a 4-year period to do with it what you wish. The money specifically has to go to bodies on trucks, getting trucks to scene. It is not for, obviously we have, George, he's in his 90s. We have a lot of people that are very participatory in the fire department, but they obviously don't ride the trucks anymore. They will sit in the radio room and dispatch if we need them to. They will do assorted other tasks, and they keep not for nothing, they keep the companies running on a regular basis. And they do all the ancillary work that somebody in their 20s and somebody in their 30s wants nothing to do with, nor has the time to do it. So part of this money cannot go towards incentivizing those people, because it's all about bodies on the truck to scene faster. What you've seen in the bottom two boxes was based on 24 people. If you look at who was eligible for LoSAP last year, not who was able to collect, but overall, if everybody made it, it was about 24 people who is operational and can ride the trucks. So of the people that were eligible is 24 in total, and you can see the totals based on if you paid a monthly stipend. Now, I spoke to Dave Schwartz today and went over this whole thing with him. FEMA will not let you do a percentage. So you would have to do a pay-per-call system. So if you just go to the last page real quick. I just took the last 36 calls. And out of those last 36 calls, I pulled out the Ordell and River Edge only, because that only company one is responding to. So that manpower doesn't get reflected in that. Out of the last 36 calls, the average manpower turning out the door was 14. Now, of that 14, so I made the average manpower for the purposes of figuring this out 15. Now, of that 14 for the day calls, you have Dave Stormer, John Bird.
Let's not use names.
Okay. Your DPW manpower that responds and is getting paid during the day. They obviously would not be eligible for the pay-per-call during that time period because of the grant money. After work hours, or if they were on vacation, or if they were off, whatever, they would be entitled to the pay-per-call dollar amount. So I use average manpower as a little loose, because if you took the day calls and pulled that manpower out, it would definitely bring down the average. I'm not really sure how much yet. I'd have to spend a little bit of time. I just did this like 2 hours ago, so once I got off the phone with him, so I'd have to go back and see what was a day call, what was a night call, how many of them were there, and really pull them out and see where this goes. But I think 15 for current standards is a pretty good average of where we're at.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said on the Ordell call, so if they know they wouldn't get paid for an Ordell, like this, you don't get paid for that?
No, I'm just saying I didn't want to skew the average manpower number. So I still took this number out of the final, the yearly is out of all calls. But I didn't want to skew the average manpower by just doing single company stuff. So average manpower for 36 calls that everyone responded to in the last 30 month or so, because we do about 30 calls a month, is 15. So per call, $10 times 15 people, 150 a call. Yearly, that's $60K. If we took the grant money out of that, you're at 10 of a borough contribution. If you went up to 15, you're at $225 per call, 90,000 yearly, 40. $20 per call, 15 people, $300, 120 borough contribution of 70. Now, I'm going to bring up one request, right? One of the things that we have coming to us on the borough side is the ARP funds. We have $73,000 in reimbursement from last year's ARP, American Rescue Plan grant. That's coming back to us this year. I have not submitted for the reimbursement yet because we haven't gotten the gear yet. The gear is on like a 3-month back order. So it's been back ordered due to they hadn't got the materials to actually make the gear. It was back ordered from the manufacturer. As soon as the gear hits the borough, we'll get the final invoice. We can put through the final payment to them, and once we get the canceled checks, we can answer the reimbursement. But that $73,000 will be coming back this year as unanticipated return to general funds for next year. So one of the things we would like to ask is to
cover the cost of the
grant. Yes.
So it's not that it doesn't just. I mean, we're paying the amount.
Yep.
It's not rolling into a place where we're not using it.
No, but it would not go. It would go back to the general fund next year, wouldn't it?
No, because we're bonding for money to cover.
You included that in the Bureau bond. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Well, I'm just putting it out there to say what a contribution on the borough side would look like. We, just being realistic on page 2, I'm going to tell you what everybody else.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Huh?
I know it's better than nothing, but.
I mean, it is better than nothing. I mean, honestly, there's 2 schools of thought here, right? Demorest is paying, and I'm just going to look at locals, right? Demorest is paying $475 a month. That includes stipend, LoSAP, and clothing allowance. Not inclusive, but they also kept their LoSAP and kept their clothing allowance. Currently, they're only spending on that, on the stipend portion of it, $53,000 was what they budgeted this year, or last year, and they came very close to it. That's based on a point system, so when you see 35%, they include in it, it's a percentage of the points. So, say they got a point for calls, they have maybe more points for calls during, you'll see Amawa down the line did $40 from midnight to 6 a.m. because that's one of their, hard-hitting times. So they wanted to incentivize that more. Maybe during our hard-hitting times, we give 2 points instead of 1 point for every call. Then they give them 2 points for every drill, et cetera. So the 35 is really 35% of the total points available for the month. Not just calls, because all that time is much time spent. I mean, we spent thousands and thousands and thousands of man hours every month in truck checks, over like 5,000 man hours just in truck checks and extra credits alone, outside of normal just calls. And that's just for Company 2. So add in Company 1, you're talking close to probably 10,000 man hours of time that's donated to the borough on a monthly basis. Hallworth is doing 400. That's stipend. They kept the LoSAP and clothing allowance. They're budgeted $65,000 for this year. Dumont is in talks with the borough right now, but their intent is to try and do $20 per call and maintain clothing allowance and LoSAP. Cresskill, which obviously has a career staff engine of 4 or 5 guys on each shift, every day staffing. So that's career staffing, paid salary with pension and benefits. Outside of that, they still maintain their volunteers. Their volunteers still come for calls. They definitely come when there's fires or rescue calls, etc. The volunteers on the volunteer side, in addition to the multi-million-dollar that they're paying for the career staff engine, are stipended and also getting LoSAP. So they're getting $450 per month. I was waiting for an answer on what the requirements to get that $450 is, what the percentage look like. So that's why it's unknown right now, but I will have that within the next week or so. Tenafly, the reason it's $412.50 is because they pay it quarterly. So it's basically it breaks down to $412.50 for 35%. Their clothing allowance is $1,200. It's basically an additional stipend. So they pay $1,250 quarter for the stipend, and then the clothing allowance is an additional stipend check of $1,250. On top of that, they also have LoSAP, and it also includes extra credits.
I mean, you don't have to review every single one of them.
Yeah, you get the point. Obviously, I'm trying to sit close
A lot of
to.
them are by percentage, and you're saying that that's not what we're going to do.
So if we kept two schools of thought, and that's what I was going to say. If you kept the money in and tried to get the 50, which I'm not saying turn it down, but you're bound to their rules, right? And their rules is operational on the truck, contributing to manpower 100%. So you really couldn't do a percentage. It has to be pay per call if we take their 50K, at least for their 50K. But that would be a monumental record-keeping thing just to try and figure out what part of the 50 goes directly to calls and how to figure out.
It's not going to motivate people if they don't understand how they're
Correct.
paid anyway.
Correct. It's not. I think somewhere in the middle of that 15 to 20 is the best starting point. I think that. Listen, I make personally, I'll just say I make as much as I can make with the new baby at home and everything else. In January, I made 17 out of 30-something calls, and last month I made 11. Okay? So, and part of that was, I'm at work 12 hours a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and a lot of those were day calls while I was at work. So it is what it is. But that would have been 170 the first month at $10 a call, and $110. So it's not terrible. Obviously, it's not what we would like to see. I don't come in here naive. I don't want to come in here with a handout and say, hey, throw me 200,000 or throw me 500,000 and I'll fix the problem, and I'm not going to give you any data. I'm going to give you all the data, but we have to have a reasonable starting point to get you that data. I'm not going to be able to bring you the right data necessarily if we don't have the right dollar amount to incentivize fixing the problem. So while I understand that we may have a starting point going into next year that we have to meet, we somehow have to get up close to what other people are doing. Once you have Holworth, Demarest, Dumont, Bergenfield has a paid engine on during the day. They supplement with LoSAP and clothing allowance. They do not have a stipend, but they have that paid 5-guy engine that they're paying over $1 million for to staff. So once people see that, hey, we're going to give them 175, but hey, they can go join Holworth, and Holworth will give them 400, they start pulling people away. Demarest and Holworth's manpower is almost entirely made out of people that do not live in Holworth. And 50% of them probably live in Dumont.
Isn't there a mileage?
So Demarest, for example, has Bergen County as their mileage. If you live in Bergen County, you can join.
Okay.
I'm not looking to go there at all. I think 3 miles that we expanded to is pretty comfortable, but we have to be competitive. I'd hate to throw 170. My worry is this. Say we threw 175 a month at them, but it's not really up to the par of what the area is doing. I would hate for people to say this program fails because it didn't make the change as big enough as we would want it. Demarest saw a 10% increase in manpower in the first year. And I would hate to say that I can't give you that 10%, or we fall way short of it because we didn't provide enough to be on par with everybody else. And then, obviously, the answer then is two trains of thought. It either failed entirely or it failed because we didn't throw enough money on it and we didn't incentivize it on par with what everybody else is doing, and we lost people to them versus, I think the biggest thing to remember here is we need to figure out a way that guy does not have to work the overtime shift, that guy does not have to work a second job, that guy does not have to do all these things to live in the borough of New Milford. On average, so we went over the people that we brought in. We lost Jack Zicardi, really. Jack Zicardi is living in an apartment. One of our guys is living in an apartment. He just got married. He's in his 20s. He moved into an apartment with his girlfriend. They are not living in town because he can't afford rent in New Milford. Another one just moved to West Milford. We lost him because he can't afford it. And bought a house in West Milford. I talked to him extensively. I talked to him extensively about what's keeping him out and it really is just the cost.
Demarest, Holworth, and Prescott.
Yes.
They have the highest taxes in the whole of Bergen County. They're in the top 5 of all of Bergen County. So they could afford paying that kind of money.
I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with the monetary side of it or the cap. I'm saying they could also recruit every person that I have that actually rides. And
Like, if you're saying Haworth is made up 50% of out-of-towners, then
yeah,
I can see that.
it's true. It's true.
But what I'm saying is we can compete with something like that.
Well, that's the concern.
And that's the thing, from a long-term plan, and I think that's why hopefully the state steps up this time. I hold my breath on that very loosely, but hopefully the state steps up. They have to start incentivizing it. Just like LoSAP was not contributory to your tax cap, they're going to need to make most of these incentives not contributory to the tax cap, because something has to give, you know.
Well, just because that we all agree on that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
100%.
And the concern is, it starts at 20. Well, 4 years from now, 20 is not going to be the number, and 4 years from now, the 50 is not going to be part of that. So it starts to become, exponentially more that the town has to
Yeah, what happens
absorb.
in year 5 up to 10?
I mean, if you start with the 20, that means we have to come up with 70 the first year.
In 4 to 10 years, you might be faced with a $2.3 million.
Well, to the overall 200, we could front load some of the safer money to get us 2-3 years down the road. We could expend it all in the first 2 years if we wanted to meet the numbers. But the only other cap that really exists is there's a cap on a percentage of the price paid for salary of local career staff, which is we're under that. I think it's over $700 or it's over $1,000 a month that you have to be a portion of a percentage of the overall. Where is it? It has to be 20% of what the average career person earns in the area. Now, that number, I said, well, what's the area? He said, it's really loose depending on how you do it. It could be the state, it could be locally, and obviously locally they're getting paid much more than statewide, so I would definitely go with local numbers. But, I mean, on average locally, they're well above 50,000, so it's, from 20%.
So going back to the contribution.
Yeah.
If this grant was awarded, depending on what the numbers are and how successful it is, our number would change each year depending on how many people qualify and how many calls, because not everyone's going to qualify or whatever.
Yeah, and
But then after the 4 years, if there's no re-up or another grant opportunity, I don't think anyone can make a commitment that said, we're going to keep this exact thing and do this, because in 4 years we might have to change, like Chief said, or something may be different. We're going to be in a different place in 4 years.
Yep.
The department could be in a different place in 4 years. So I don't think if we go for this that it's automatic in year 5. Oh, we're just automatically going to get this.
I mean, in year 5 or in year 4 we can resubmit for another 4 years. And I mean, part of that is going to be great data collection, great reporting, which I just got a letter from AFG last month. He wants me to write a whole success story for the AFG program because he read our performance progress report, the last one that we submitted for the radio grant. And it was so great that he wants us to pitch something nationally for AFG. So
It's going to cost.
we're doing very good reporting,
There's the money.
and part of selling it is showing that it worked and showing that it's going to be beneficial to give it to us.
We still have a 50-person cap on the program, right? You did it?
Yes.
Right.
A what?
There's a 50-member cap.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right.
I think it's per company,
Yeah, I think you're right.
so it's a 100-member cap. And God, if we ever got there,
That's why I'm saying.
We're wanting for not, but yes,
Year
yes.
5, because there could be 100 people.
Sure.
Right.
How many local towns are receiving this grant?
I don't have the local with the
Leaving off Dumont did, or Oradell.
Demers did years ago, but I'm not sure what year it was. River Edge and Oradell have not put in on the stipends portion of things. Oradell got it with basically the other stuff, the gear and everything, but they did not put in a stipend.
And why not?
Well, I think because part of the discussion is that it is restrictive and that it would have to be pay-per-call versus incentivizing everything. Like, obviously, a 40% of all of the things we need them to show up with for a set amount of money is much more easier for us to manage, right, from an operational standpoint. But really benefits all the things that we need done rather than just calls. They're very specific on calls, so if you take that money, it goes specifically to that.
So, are calls treated equally in this? Is a 15-minute CO call calculated the same as a 9-hour Colony Street flood call?
So many people have it, this is based on the way we write up the program. So you could write that the first hour of a call, the first 2 hours is one, and then you could, another 10, if it was 10, another $10 for every hour past that. You could work it out like that. The only things that kind of fall into that category is the floods and big stuff. It's not often, maybe 3-4 times a year. I mean, compared to 400 calls a year, that's not that bad. But you can also take that and assign a smaller value to it rather than just,
So many years ago, over 30.
Chief, you're gonna have to move up so we can catch you on the...
Sorry, that's fine. So when I first joined the credit system, when we would go out or call, was done kind of hourly. And then whatever points you accumulated at the end of the year went towards your clothing allowance, because that's the only thing we had. There was no low step, no nothing else. And what we were beginning to find is guys were penalized. First of all, if there's no daytime calls or there's more daytime than night, and then you get that one call that's like 9 hours, like you said,
Right.
and that's the one he's on, but he didn't make the other 10 that were only 1 hour, he loses. So we just went to a regular, you make the call, you showed up, you gave your time. And we've been doing that for years, and it's worked out beneficial. So the flip side of doing something I would be afraid would be that we could actually lose people. Oh, man, I can't, I'm doing what I can, but I'm still short. Because they're showing up. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to get people in the door. We get them in the door, then we got to keep them. Right.
How do you measure the success of the stipend?
Well, through NIFRS, I have all the data. I mean, I have the data by average response time from call going out to first unit on scene.
I mean, listen, the three of you guys in this room.
Sure.
It's good to give it to you because you deserve it, because you've been working hard and you're going to be here and you're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But like the new people that we get in the door.
There's no guarantee.
Right, but how do we know whether or not it's successful?
So, to that point, NIFRS I can give you by hour of the day. How many calls happen at 2 o'clock every day, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock? What's the average manpower on every single one of those calls by hour of the day? And we're going to have to pull all that data, and we're going to have to look at it. In the first 6 months, this is what the increase was, whether there was or not. And the first year of the program, this is where we did. We shaved 4 minutes off the response time. We got 3 pieces to the scene rather than 1. We got both pieces out of company 2 rather than 1. And the average manpower was 6 instead of 4. Like, it's going to be all of those things. And all that data I'm already entering in NIFRS, which is the great thing about it. But we'll be able to pull all
Is that the job of the person, the administrator, that $3,000?
Yeah, I mean, it's really computer. So that person's going to have to. Well, I'm still going to do. Yeah, I'm still going to be doing the NIFRS and error entries. But from the reporting standpoint, yes. From that person is really going to be doing the daily. So the companies are going to have to report to that person their manpower and attendance. That person is going to have to compile that. Part of Dave's fee, which is on the first page and in yellow on the bottom.
Sorry, Chief.
Yeah. So
You can't see him.
I know,
Yes.
this is going crazy, but it's very confusing. This is also the one issue we were talking about when you do a pay-per-call type situation, is I feel there's less accountability. If we were able to do it 35% and we have a bigger pot of a stipend, I feel that's a little bit better than this, because a pay-per-call, you're going to get random people showing up, and yeah, we get the call, here's your $10, whatever, but it doesn't really hold them accountable to show up for their 35% or to really make that effort to come. That's why we originally spoke about a regular stipend and hold these guys accountable for 35%, because the ultimate goal is just to get trucks out. Pay for call, it's a bit different. I don't see it. They could just pick and choose at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think about. You could obviously incentivize, like Paramus, like Paramus did incentivize the difficult times, right? The difficult times on Paramus when the EMS was, midnight to 6 a.m. and then the early hour, rush hour, right? It was probably from midnight to almost 9 a.m. because it was rush hour time in the morning, and then it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 7 o'clock. the nighttime rush hour that everybody's not coming. So they incentivize that at 3 hours of credit for every hour of call, rather than 2 hours for every hour. So there's ways to incentivize. Obviously, you could throw $20 a call at the overnight calls, which you're seeing even less and less people too. And it's not it's not the house fires that we're lacking in manpower on the house fires, definitely, but we're turning out a number that's comfortable and meeting our requirement federally. It's those 500 activated fire alarms at 2 o'clock in the morning that it's like, I have work in 3 hours, so I have to get up and go to work. I can either get up and lose all the sleep and then go function at the hospital for the next 12 hours somehow, or I'm going to die in this one because if I do it, I'm not going to be alive. So it's making that trade-off, and that's why on average our overnight manpower, you're seeing, 6 or 7 guys total, including your chiefs, as an overnight manpower for your routine calls, not your rescues.
Of the people who've come to the fire department in the last 5 years, how many of them have stayed? I mean, I'm not asking for specific number, but how many stayed of the people who joined in the last 5 years?
Honestly, company 2.
One. That wasn't even the last 5 years. They've been on for 5 years.
We've had 10 or 12 guys show up. Yeah. They're just not staying.
And do you invest in them completely with everything as soon as they come in?
No. Well, not with gear or something like that, but as far as our time, we go through the whole, but I think all of us can agree too, I can't give him $6,000 of brand new gear when I'm not sure he's not going to
That's what
we don't
fill out an application when they first walk in the door. We sit down with them and spell it all out.
Oh, 100%.
Whatever, all the man hours that are required. The biggest chunk of that is obviously getting the training going to Mawa. Because
2 nights a week, 6 months.
When you walk in off the street,
That's the academy trip.
Yeah.
You're basically allowed to do
2
nothing.
nights a week, 6 months.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think the biggest problem is that people can't afford to live in New Milford. I think the biggest problem is that the volunteer commitment is not the same as what it used to be.
That is definitely true also, but anything that takes away from their ability, what we've seen as far as people we lose has been monetary. As far as the people we've lost from our company, it's been monetary.
It's gone out of control.
I see the retention side of it, and we spoke about this last year too. Retention is the most important for me. It's nice to get new members.
Right.
This town, the demographic is very difficult. It's not like River Edge, it's not like Oriole. And we're not seeing people coming to volunteer. And the ones that we are, they're leaving.
What's the difference with River Edge and Oriole?
Culture.
Yeah, I mean, we have the apartments is between Dorchester, New Milford Arms, Brookchester, Madison Arms is a huge portion of that overall chunk, right? And a lot of them are transient. A lot of them stay for 2 years and then move on. So it's and they come, probably 50% of the people that just inquire, don't even come down to actually find out after the inquiring part, but just inquire about joining, are in the apartments. And for whatever reason, they don't come down to get more information. And I follow them up, 2 or 3 times in the first 6 months to say, or send them a text or send them an email and see if they're going to participate, and they just don't show up. So, but part of that I think is the transient population. Oriole doesn't have that. River Edge has a good chunk of that, but from what I've seen as far as their manpower goes, that's not what's making up their manpower. Their manpower, and they've been very successful in bringing on a number of more people last year. Part of that, but many of those were sons and daughters of existing members that just became of age to be able to join. So it looks great, but all in all, it's something organically that happens anyway. And then them bringing on their friends, which has we've been very successful with. Once you get a couple of kids, then you get a couple more, then you get a couple more. The problem is, obviously many of them look to go away to college and do other things that take them away from the area and the department for long periods of time.
We lost 3 guys, and they were started life with family, bought a house in different town, whatever it was. But losing guys like that is
Sure.
the worst, because they're already trained, they already know our operations, they know the area, they know how we function, and they're experienced. And those are people that's really hard for us to,
Is there a benefit to opening it up a little bit further in mileage?
I don't think so. Me personally,
I think we're where we want to be. Anything more than that, it risks people getting in an accident.
Yeah, I'm
and
not a
coming.
fan of it, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
honestly, I still think that depends where they are.
Yeah, depends where they're at.
They're not helping us get in that second engine out, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It's taking them too long to get to the firehouse. By that time, we already called mutual aid, you know?
And the other thing, Christine, perfect example, back in December near the end, we did have a fellow that got off the website, came down to Company One and inquired. He wanted to supplement his income, and when we explained to him, volunteer, you know what that means, he was very polite, and we never saw him again. I don't know what he thought he was gonna get, you know.
Well, I think,
But he said, hey, you don't get that.
it depends. Listen, it depends on the guy, but I think a lot of people are struggling to get by.
So can you
You know?
talk about the fees for the application and stuff?
So on the $11,999 is a one-time fee. That's for the application itself. There is a $1,500 per quarter reporting fee. So on that, and that's Dave does all of the legwork as far as submission of all the necessary reporting.
$1,500 per year.
Per quarter. The reporting is $1,500 a quarter, so it's $6,000 a year. $6,000 a year. On the AFG side, for these equipment grants we've been getting, he charges a $500 one-time fee, but that's because the period of performance is a year, and it's one very easy report. You either bought the stuff or you haven't bought the stuff yet, and why, and then the final. So it's very easy. This obviously is a
How is it
lot.
what he's doing different than what the program coordinators do?
So what he has to do is basically write, those performance progress reports are like a one-sheet narrative about how the overall is working. So that needs to be very well and specifically written. I don't necessarily think that whoever's doing this can't do it. I've obviously for the ARP have done like those, and I've done for AFG. I've written some. So, I did it for the AFGS, the COVID supplemental one that we did outside of him. I did the performance progress reports for that. That I know. This is kind of the devil that I don't know. So while I would say that it might not be 100% needed, I would budget for it because I need to see it. We need to look at it first. I don't know what all the requirements are as far as that kind of reporting and what they're going to be requesting of us, and whether this person is that's going to fit in enough man hours for $3,000 a
What's the
year.
timing on when the application is?
All right,
Are you gonna
so
do
this
it?
really, I'm going to say earliest. Let's talk last year. Last year's AFG Safer Grant went in, I think it opened in February, closed in March, and then they finished giving out the last round of grants September 23rd. So, after that September 23rd date, it's 60 days before it goes into effect. We're already late. They said they were going to open March 1st. Clearly, that's not happening. My gut, they haven't even announced that it's coming soon. Like, usually there's a little flurry beforehand. Hey, it's going to be opening in a month. That doesn't even happen yet. So my gut is that we're going to be into May, which is good for us. It gives us more time to write a compelling application and get all our act together. But my gut is that it'll be April, May, June, July, August, September probably before they're done at least. We won't even see an approval until October-ish, and then you got 60 days. So I think we're in next year's budget before we have to worry about money on top of anything, or the stipend committal portion of it past what they're willing to do if we go there. And the reporting side of things. So we maybe have to report one quarter before the end of the year, so maybe $1,500 or $3,000 we put aside on the reporting end of it. I would budget the first year of it, obviously, the $6,000 for the first year, just in case. But chances are of that, we'll probably only see one quarter of maybe a reporting if we need to dig into those funds and have him do it. the application side is a one-time fee. So obviously, I know, Christine, you talked to, there was, the 5,000 was set aside for AFG, so this would really be 6,000 above what's already set aside to apply.
7,
So,
12,000.
Yeah.
You have 5.
Yep,
Or
5, yeah.
6.
5. 49.99. But you'd probably be put 5.
I had a little.
A little
extra
buffer.
in there, yeah, I
Yeah.
think I had 6 in there.
Okay.
So another additional 6 for the application.
Application.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
And then
1,500.
I think we should put at least a quarter away. Maybe 2 as a buffer, but definitely 1/4. I don't see it opening before April. I don't think they're gonna, or before May.
We don't know, though. We don't know.
No, I don't know, but even once it opens, it's still 30 days before it closes. So
We wouldn't get this, though, you're saying, till October. And then it's a 60-day wait.
correct, before you have to start
So
performing,
I don't think we have to.
and then obviously
for
the
the reporting as well.
I mean, look at the gear. The gear was the same time, and we couldn't do anything until
Yeah.
the fall.
they strung us along on that American Rescue Plan grant for months and months and months before they finally put the money in the account for us to do anything with.
Yeah, we got the gear grant, which was all good, but we're a year, and still a lot of years.
Somebody's gotta make a point of deciding.
You know,
You
it,
only ask the questions.
I wish we could have had a separate discussion about stipends before we were into this grant and all the other bells and whistles of the grant. Had we been able to sit down and just talk about the scheduling and what the department, each company, and what the department really needs and what does this money really mean? I think it would be a little clearer for some of us around the table.
These are really 2 separate things.
Correct.
You're saying.
I
That's
feel
what I was
like
wondering.
it is.
So this
I
is-
mean, it's not.
And I'll say that
Well, if they're connected, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
So the grant that you're applying for would ultimately cost us $476,550, right?
correct.
But what's on the next page
Well,
with the
it
monthly
wouldn't cost
stipends-
you. That was what you'd
That's what
be
you're
awarded.
applying.
That's
Right,
what you're
that's what
awarding.
you're applying. Okay, right. But
Your
the
cost
next,
for that is the $11,999.
but the next page has nothing to do with this.
The next page is specifically what the area departments are paying in stipends
Right.
to be competitive.
So they can be dealt with separately, these 2 issues, or?
Well,
Well,
no,
you
no,
could,
no.
Well, the
We-
stipend is part of the grant application.
Right.
we could,
Ah,
well,
okay, all right.
the whole point of
Okay,
the
right.
grant is recruitment and retention. The stipend
right,
is for
so I see
recruitment,
that. I'm
right?
sorry, I missed
People are in the area paying $400, that's where the
Yeah,
people
I
that are
got it.
recruiting are gonna
Okay.
go be recruited.
But a question, I mean, do you think Demarest is spending that in recruitment?
Are they spending,
The money that is shown here for these campaigns, $23,000 a year.
so they they're doing this outside, those places are not necessarily doing it through the grant program, they just put in a stipend.
So how are they doing?
They're funding it municipally.
23 grand a year.
They're funding, their budget in Fallworth was, for last year was 53K, and Demarest put 65K. For, just specifically for stipend programs. And they didn't go over last year, he said.
No,
The
I'm
vote.
saying for recruitment.
For
Yeah,
for recruitment specifically, they're not. They're doing organically what we do, they're posting a
So
Facebook post.
they're
saying,
getting it without the recruitment, but they're getting it mainly because they're paying.
Pay $470,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're necessarily getting the amount of people that they would get if they did a comprehensive, like, $100,000 recruitment program, like
But they're not
campaign.
losing people.
But they're not,
That's
but they're not losing people.
That's
correct.
Make it that if we give it a stipend of $500 a month, and see how many people come running.
It's true. And listen, I'll put it,
Even to the.
I'll put it this, in early 2000, I was a member of Paramus Ambulance. Now, Paramus is a different subject altogether. It's a much bigger municipality, it's a much bigger call volume,
And
but,
lower tax.
at the time, they paid $350 a month. And if you did an extra 24 hours of time, you got an additional $150 that was banked until December, and you got it paid out right before Christmas, or right before the holidays. There were They got out 99.9% of 4 rigs every single day because of that. They were fully staffed for 4 rigs every day. There were people driving up here from Barnegat for the weekends, riding a duty shift, and going back. So, depending on how you work it, money talks. If somebody needs a couple more dollars to get by, they're going to come out of the woodwork for a couple more dollars. Or it's between, Jerry, me and Jerry said, I've left work early last year, in 2022 to come to municipal meetings to have discussions about what needed to be done. I've not taken that overtime shift to come here and have that discussions. Jerry has done the same thing. So, and many times you saw me at the, jumping on a Zoom meeting from work, hiding in my office. So we all put in the time, but municipally, it's going to come down to that. Am I going to pick up that overtime shift that's going to pay me $500, or would I rather go home and hopefully there's a fire call? But either way, I'd rather make my stipend. Most people are going to come home, be with their families. If there's a call, they're going to take it. And it's going to boost manpower that way. But it is really making that distinction.
It's not going to make this difference in somebody being able to stay in Milford.
I mean, it's a start. It's a start, and it's a broader discussion for the future, and it's a broader discussion it's all part of a comprehensive plan. Like we talked about with LoSAP. LoSAP was never supposed to be just LoSAP. It was supposed to be a comprehensive recruit. Like, yes, it was instituted as a single thing, but people were supposed to put that into a program to recruit people. There are many departments in this list that have prescription and medical health plans for their members, like a number of other things as part of a comprehensive plan to recruit and retain people. Obviously, we're not going to have that discussion, but that's reality. The reality is the more benefits you have, the easier it is to stop someone from doing that overtime shift, or stop someone from from staying at work longer, or from getting that second or third job, especially lately. I think gone are the times where again, we'll let them remain nameless, but gone are the times where you had some of the people that are in their 60s and 70s now that had municipal businesses or in the very close proximity to Milford that were able to say, hey, shopkeeper, I'm leaving, I'll be back in an hour, I have a fire call, and so go be gone for a couple hours on a fire. That's what we had in the past. These people don't have their own businesses anymore. They're tradespeople. They're working in the city from 9 to 5, and now they're all being called back to the office, so they're even more gone. So, one of our main guys who took the breadth of our calls is now working in the city as a project manager for a company, and he's gone from 9 to 5, and he leaves at 8 and he comes home, sometimes by 7. He's walking up the street to the firehouse to get his car. So it's a big breadth of his time, 5 days a week, is not with us. So we've lost all that local 9 to 5, 6 to 6 people, definitely, which is our biggest hard hit time.
The difference
and then the overnight.
The nature of your volunteerism can come at any hour.
Sure.
Whereas there's other groups where we have a meeting a month, it's at this time, it's on Thursday, whatever. Yeah.
I mean,
what's throwing me off now on this is the pay per call instead of the percentage.
I like the percentage. If we take their 50,000, we need to follow their rules. I can put this whole thing in without the 50,000 at the end of the day if we really wanted to. But we have to follow their rules. Now, that's not to say that we can't come up with some other program on the side to supplement that and not call it the stipend. I don't know. We'll call it something else, completely volunteer incentive program, and we can do it on the side with, and still take their money and give it out per call. That's not to say that we can't do that. But obviously, these are, this stuff's going to take a year to figure out for next year's budget and how we're going to go past that. And and like I've said since 22, it's going to take a long time to write it. It's a long time in waiting, and I don't want to kick the can down the road.
So they haven't opened the grant yet?
No.
Right,
my guts may.
So we have time. People have time to digest this?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't need an answer
come up with more questions?
I don't need an answer by tomorrow, but surely you need to write the ordinance for the grant writer, and I need to actually sit down and write it.
We don't have to write an ordinance for the grant writer. We have to put it in the operations budget.
Okay.
Could you explain the percentage thing to me again? I'm sorry.
It doesn't apply anymore. If we get this right,
But I still want to understand it.
Say we scrapped the stipend in the grant, and we just came up with our own program, and the municipality funded it. Some of these towns, their percentage is calls, strictly calls, like Edgewater. That's strictly. Well, no, they included work nights and trainings and drills.
It's a little lower.
Yeah. Somebody else was strictly
Ridgefield is percentage.
Pretty much everybody is a percentage of a point system.
Just explain to them what that
Explain.
means. She doesn't use
So
the-
if on Thursdays, every Thursday at Company 2, we go to truck checks, we start all the saws, we check all the equipment, we make sure the air packs have air in it. We're there from 7 o'clock to 10, right? That would be included. Say they give, I'm just throwing it out there as an example. Maybe we would give, of those 3 weeks that we require, maybe 2 of them you can get points for. And it's 2 points per work night.
I think part of the confusion is when you look at on the second page, it says
Yeah.
percents. These towns are not in the safer grant.
Yeah.
The towns are making.
So it's one or the other.
The towns are coming up with the money, however.
I'm still just curious how they figure out percents and what's
Well,
what
Because
the
we
there's
do
other
percentage
besides
now.
calls that they
Yeah,
do.
I mean, there's
Okay.
other things we'd
All
like
right.
to
I see. Okay.
incentivize,
When we
obviously.
do our clothing allowance and LoSAP, it's all based on percent.
Auxiliary police, we did it by hours.
Yeah.
So how many hours did you get a month?
Yeah, like, the clothing allowance is based on the work nights, the drills, and the calls.
Like,
The
listen,
LoSAP is based on the drills and the call, and the actual call volume minus extra credit. So most places are doing it along the same lines. They're giving a point amount, and that's 35% of the total points that were available for that month.
Okay.
Because really
Thank you.
incentivizes everything. I need just people at the drill to drill together and train together just as much as I need them at the call. So it gives them a little bit of leeway.
So if we went by percentages,
We don't get the grant, we can't use
Yeah,
it.
we can't.
we had that.
Which needs $200,000.
The municipality would take that upon themselves. How would we budget for that throughout the year? I mean, we
Well, I
don't know
mean-
those, how many
Can I give my bill
people are going to show up.
That actually makes budgeting it a little bit easier.
Okay, so how would,
Because you work back from I work back from a budget number to how many can I fund, and I figure out a little.
How much
Yeah.
was the matching? Is the matching
No.
there?
Yeah.
And not everybody
So
calls.
who gets
Sure.
it, who gets it?
So we used to.
So we don't
You
have
leave
to
a
pay
little
any money?
right.
Well, we have to look at this,
That is what you said,
I made a decision, I said, well, I don't want to share that last year, so as long as we have a little bit of.
So that's how we budget.
Yeah, they said we're budgeting $50,000 a year, and then
I think this
But
is.
that other being exempt
Yeah.
That's kind of what I did here, already, like 24 people this year could qualify, but our hope is that incentivizing with the money, you're gonna gain membership,
I don't.
and they're also gonna show up. So just adding like I added up to 32 people for next year, just to show like how that would change based on more people being eligible. So, but the flip side of doing it pay per call is that you start with the number, and I can only, if more people make it, then instead of giving you $10 a call, now I might have to give you 8, otherwise you're gonna run out of money. Or I give $10 a call until you run out of money, and then there is no more money. Like, it becomes much more difficult to manage rather than working back from a pre-approved, like, knowledgeable budget number with a little bit of pad, just to make sure we
But you
keep
can't change
everybody
the
eligible.
policy. You say you're giving them $10, you're gonna give them $10 regardless, and we're gonna end up having to transfer money. That's what happens.
No, it would be until once the money runs out.
That's what you do.
Once that 200,000, if that 200,000 ran out in year 2, you don't have to keep it going.
So you're running this, so that would be like a pilot program.
Yeah, from
So
what
you're looking at this as a pilot program to experiment.
Yeah, I mean,
with
it's
the
Spending a
part of
fair
the-
amount in 2 years, that's probably a good indicator that it's working.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Hopefully, my data will be very easy then about selling the next 4 years after that.
yeah, we'll have a lot of recruits for 2 years, and then.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then where'd they go?
I think
They're all in
I think it would
Denver.
be foolish to assume that we're going to peel it back. I think you have to go in with the attitude that this is probably something that you're committing to. I mean, whether or not it's an actual commitment.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for instance, like,
it's very hard to take it back.
Right, the alternative down the road is paid department.
Right.
Other towns are starting to do are paid professionals, which is health benefits and everything else.
It's gonna be the county having the department.
They've been saying that for years.
It's not gonna be a town. I mean, I happen to, as you guys know, I represent all the towns I represent, but I also am the general counsel for the Patterson Firemen.
Mhm.
And I can tell you right now that there's no chance that there's going to be, I mean, Englewood, they're trying to get Englewood, Hackensack, and Teaneck to merge. They've been trying to do that for
Yeah.
years. And I was a Teaneck attorney, as you all know, for a long
Yeah.
time. I suspect that at some point that will have to happen.
Yeah, and I mean,
There's just no way that the towns can sustain their own fire departments.
yeah, I mean, but the
Not without
detriment,
the volunteers.
the detriment of that merging is just geography. Sure, you could merge Patterson and Hackensack, but they're also 15 minutes
No, not
apart.
Patterson, Hackensack, Englewood, and Teaneck.
Yeah, no, definitely those. But there's also been talk about, I mean, even when mutual aid wise, Hackensack will call Patterson in before they call South Hackensack in, because Patterson is a volunteer and Patterson is career and in a local. So, yeah, I mean, geographically, it's, sure, it sounds great on paper that you're getting guaranteed manpower, but you're also waiting 15 minutes for it, and if there's a life in the balance, and that person doesn't make it, though, guess what? Somebody's going to be knocking on the door looking for the payout. Why didn't you call them? They had 10 people waiting for you to call them. You know, so it's, that actually, that happened down the shore, last year specifically.
I agree with you that that's down the road someplace.
Yeah.
I don't know how,
Maybe not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. North Hudson did that years ago.
Yep,
Not working so well.
Yeah, town.
North Bergen wants to pull out.
I'm well aware.
Okay, so.
I represent Gothenburg.
You know, these all sound great on paper, and like, yeah, we're gonna save this, but.
There's
And
no
I
way
didn't help
towns
their
like
manpower,
ours
all it did to
do,
them, because I used to work in
can
North.
have their own paid
I
department.
watched them respond, 3
I
guys
mean,
on the truck.
I mean, just like we
Yes,
talked.
they had multiple pieces.
A
coming
paid
in.
department
That's
is
how they made it up.
$3.something
I
million.
mean, correct, and we
It's manpower,
but we saw,
To have a paid department between the three of them?
well, but
Right, you're
you,
talking about individually. You're
Right,
talking- Right.
right.
Like we
I
have
mean,
the police department.
you could, until something happens. Sure, that works for the activated fire alarm, but that doesn't work for the storm. On a storm day, we're running 40 calls in a matter of 8 hours. That's not running for 3 towns. That's not happening in 3 towns with one department. And be standalone? Not at all. That's why every time we've always had the discussion in the past, well, why can't we just call Oriole? Why can't we just call Milford? Why can't we just call, River Edge? Because when the shit hits the fan, no offense, they're not coming. Everyone needs to be self-sufficient and self-sustainable. And if we're not, that means paying your own full-time department. And honestly, it means more than just one engine. It means 2 engines in a truck. We are probably almost 1.5 times, sometimes 2 times the call volume of Wardell and River Edge. One, because of the floods and large-scale calls, but on average, we have always been more than Wardell and River Edge, substantially more. Fallworth and Demarest, we surpass them by, they probably do 250 calls a year to our 370. Yeah, so we do double, 375 to 400 calls,
Combined did less than us.
Yeah, we're doing 375 to 400 calls a year, so it's a much different egg to crack. Even if you brought them all in together, if microburst hits the area,
This year we're on the same track though, same pace.
nobody's coming.
So, the one thing, what we talked about last year too, what we're worried about is we have our rules and regs, bylaws, 35%, 60% with extra credit, all this. We're not abiding by it. If we were to actually abide by that, we wouldn't have more than 5 people in the firehouse. I'm speaking for company too.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, and we're in a tough position where we go, I gotta throw this guy off. We can't afford to throw him off. But this is what we're, like, this is serious talk, you know?
Yeah.
We can't afford to throw people off, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
invested in a 2-car engine.
He says.
Have to have people who-
Hey,
We wanna
Jerry,
Protect the community.
could you just, speak a little more on that?
So, remember, we met last year.
Yeah.
I brought all the paperwork, and we'll have our normal percentages, and I'm speaking for company too. I have company ones, information at the time. But we have our certain rules, you have to show up for 35%, 60% with extra credit. So that's work nights, drills. Some guys, if they're not making the calls, they'll come down to the firehouse and give them extra credit just so they can stay on. So we have guys that are not in that range, and we throw guys off of that. I got a letter in my file 12 years ago for being at 58%. I was 2% short in a quarter. That's how things used to be. And we tried being loose with these guys, tried working with them. We understand guys who work in different jobs, things are a lot more expensive. But now, we can't get rid of people. We can't afford
Because you need them.
Because you don't have the manpower.
Right.
And there's a lot
So-
invested
but-
in training.
Years ago,
Applications for an open, what are you working on before it opens, right?
Would I be yeah, I need to write this application. If I wait till the last, this is like, AFG is pretty easy. It's like a 4,000 word paragraph, the actual, outside the nitty gritty of like call volume and stuff.
When you need to
Very soon. This is like a 50-page, like comprehensive, like, every one of those, every one of those pieces of the application needs a good narrative and a program to back up.
50%
This is a safer, this is part of
This is,
it.
yeah, this is all
And
safer.
those are state or federal?
This is FEMA.
I think
Federal.
It's federal, all right, yeah, you know, so you.
Maybe they missed the last 5 calls.
Yeah, this is gonna be like a 50, I mean, I'm just guessing, but this is gonna be like a 50-page application. 'Cause we're not just saying, hey, I need a saw because my saw is 20 years old, I need to actually go with them with the, here's the plan, the point system, everything. I can tell you, I just did the numbers real quick. Last month, we had 24 members altogether on Company 2, and that includes the no longer riding crowd by a couple. Only 9 of them are 37.5%, made 35% of actual. 37%. So, now, remember, we don't kick them off for that. We kick them off for including extra credits. But extra credits is not getting the truck out the door. So actual people getting the truck out the door, only 9 out of 24 made 35% or better. And I'll say, I made 41% of actual, and that's with taking every single call that came in that I wasn't at work, minus maybe 2 that I wasn't around, maybe minus 2 that I wasn't around. Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure Company 1's in the same boat.
But you made a good point before, though, also, is if you pay them by the call, they can decide which calls they want to answer and which calls they don't.
Unless you incentivize, like if you incentivize the parking issues,
Okay.
make 6,
How do
you
you
know,
want to
and wait it,
budget?
but obviously we can't, the only way you can wait it, pay for calls, maybe 25 of those, then 20.
Just a yes
What
or
you could
no
do, just have to,
No swear.
Alright,
So where your guys,
We-
thinking that that percentage was.
What's the burden for the town, this application?
no, I think it's the overall monetary potential. Yeah, I think it's the overall monetary number. I think 175 a month. That's what I think.
So we need to talk about, they need to know if we want to go ahead with this grant. I think writing the grant, we still have time to play with if we're going to do this.
Sure.
A call or a percentage thing or something like that, but
That's the call, that's the grant.
unless they don't use the $50,000. The grant also includes the marketing, it includes actually the equipment, the turnout gear for new recruits, which would help us, right? So the grant is $12,000, we have 6, we have to find 6 in the budget, which is gonna be a trick.
Once a quarter of reporting, just in case.
Right.
Because we're already at 200.
It's 24,000 for reporting for the year, plus the 12,000 application fee.
One of the questions I was gonna ask is.
No, 6,000 a year, 1,500 a quarter, not 6,000 a quarter.
Oh, that's what I asked you, and I thought you
No,
responded
it's
that it was...
1,500 per quarter,
Oh.
6,000 per year, so we should shell out the first
Okay.
quarter just in case it comes,
Okay.
it hits this year.
Gotcha, okay.
So the quarterly reporting doesn't come out of this grant, we have to fund that on top of this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the extra money we have to find for this grant, is there anything the fire department can help us out with? Like, we split it 3-3 for that 6.
From where?
Don't know. Is there
Your
any-
operation budget, I mean, you end up
I don't know what
having
he's asking.
a little,
I
It's
mean,
a razor
They split
thin, we're
one.
trying to do this, that's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
that thanks.
Just asking.
I mean, we had money left over this year, but that doesn't mean, and last year, but that doesn't mean we're gonna have money left over next year, and you know, it's hard to answer when we haven't even bought the things that we need to buy yet.
All right, well.
I mean, listen, I cut the fact, you saw, I cut $1,000 off of equipment. I didn't do that just because I didn't want the $1,000. I cut every little thing that we could cut this year, you know, when we prepared that budget. And I wanted to be realistic, but I also wanted to give you bare bones, and that is bare bones. Are we gonna have money left? Clearly, obviously, me and Chris met, you know, before the end of the year to figure out those couple last minute things that we needed to purchase. I clearly didn't touch the clothing allowance money, even though we may have been able to, because we hadn't even expended it yet, so I didn't, you know, I'm not gonna go there. So sure, there could be, but, you know, that's really the only money that's on the table towards the end of the year. Like training, already expended. We already have classes ready, I already put deposit down, I gotta supplement it with, you know, this year's budget. Equipment, there's already stuff that we need to get.
So why don't we just say it's possible? We'll look into it. We'll see.
No, I'll absolutely look into it. I just don't know where, you know.
Question is, council, do you want to move forward with this grant for all of this, and then we're going to figure out
Mhm.
The bigger issue of the pay-per-call, if you want to go with that, you get the $50,000.
I think if you do that, you have to add $7,500 to the grants in order to make, you can't say, well, we'll see what happens. We're either gonna put it in the budget or we're not.
7,500 for what? What was
It's
it?
6,000 additional for the application and 1,500 for the first quarter of reporting. So
I
$7,500.
thought it was 12,000 for the application.
No, we
have six
is
already.
budgeted
Oh,
for
really?
that.
Oh, I see.
I mean,
And this would start in 26.
just to hit, just to be, if we did pay per call, right, just to be at $10 a call, the budget, the borough would have to take an additional 10.
That's next year.
No, I understand, I'm just saying, just to hit that number, there would have to be an
Next year,
additional 10 next year. Any less than that? No, correct, I think any less than 10,
We put it through this
Find
year.
out when this has to start.
60 days after it's awarded.
It has to start.
Yeah.
Exactly 60 days.
60 days after it's awarded,
You
it
have to
has to.
spend the first dollar.
No, you have to spend the first dollar, you have to start the process. So
Okay.
30 days after the 60, or 90 days after delivery.
We're talking 26.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think that's fair. But, just in case, I want to be ready.
So, is there anyone else have any questions about this? Because I'm going to ask someone to make a motion. Second, we're going to vote. You guys are going to vote around the table. Any more questions?
I don't know where we're gonna get 7,000 from. 75.
I think we need a table to discuss it more. So there's a lot of information. It was a lot to discuss, a lot to digest. It's not entirely clear. It's a little bit confusing. I think we need another session to dissect the information. We'll
What
discuss
isn't
it.
clear? What are you hoping to get?
Well,
that we have?
Because you'll get it around this table and from those guys if there's anything else really specific. Otherwise, I think a lot of us are feeling that way. However, I mean, the facts are the facts. They're not able to retain, membership to the proper level that it should be. That we have to provide this service to our town. And this looks like it can avail us to some interesting things. Now, after 4 years, you're saying we don't have to reapply.
We don't have to do anything after the
Right.
years, yeah.
And
We can
also,
stop the stipends if we want.
You could, yeah.
yeah, I mean, anything is possible. We
We have
could,
to see what everything looks like at the end of.
Right, but the
Right.
question,
It's a long way down the road,
the
but it's
question
4 more years
is, do
to
we
think
want
we're getting out the
to
door.
apply for the grant?
Right.
Correct.
That's
what
the
we're talking
question. Do we want to apply for the grant?
and I think personally for me, as I said before, I always think that applying for a grant is a great idea. However, by applying for this, you guys are broaching, the idea of a stipend is really, a procedural change completely. It's something new that we have never done before.
Well, we could
So
surely,
it's,
you could surely pull the stipend out. I think
no,
there,
I'm not
$100,000
suggesting that.
recruitment campaign is well worth, even that
Yes.
standalone, the first item,
Yes.
is well worth an $11,000.
But people get
application.
stuck on the strangest
understand.
things.
No, I understand.
You know that. I mean, so for me, I was just like, so does that mean we approved that? When did we approve that? I guess by us applying,
Yeah.
we're saying yes.
We're
So-
saying we're gonna give it a try.
We're going to give it a try.
So
Yeah.
it's
First, as a possible.
So these lists,
It's still, I mean, we still have to pass an ordinance with all of the things.
Right.
Setting aside the program, that it doesn't make them an employee,
There's a lot of
Sure.
changes.
Sure, 100%. We'll have time,
I-
a little bit.
I would imagine, Hetty just brought up.
Are all these things mandatory to be included? Or
Nothing's
we-
mandatory.
We can pick and choose the different items?
Nothing's mandatory.
Were there more items that you discarded and you picked these to include in the grant?
$10,000, up to $10,000 for exercise equipment. We already have a good amount of gym stuff. Tuition reimbursement, minor
Okay.
interior renovations.
So there were other things that you omitted?
Yeah,
Okay.
LED sign, we didn't, where are we gonna put it?
They think the things they think that we're going
Right.
to work.
That's really it though, that was really it though, an LED sign, interior renovations up to 10,000 to convert into a bunk room.
We put a sign
Of course
out
you
there.
I mean, other than that company one, and I don't think people are gonna like an interior sign on a residential, LED sign on a residential street.
And did you come up with these numbers for each of these things, or these in the
Yeah,
grant?
I mean, those are really what we're paying paying for now. Like, 6,000 is what we're paying for here now.
Well, since we're paying for that now.
Listen, you
There's
know
no
what?
grant to pay for that.
It wasn't the best time financially when my kids decided to go to college. But I invested in their future, so
Right now, we're
I
very
say
tight on
yes.
the budget.
I know we are,
I
but
don't know where I'm,
I think we should do it.
but we're gonna learn from this, because we can't just keep kicking things down, kick the can down the road, because
No.
we're gonna find out if something like this works. But while we're doing that, there's all these other things that we are gonna get funding for that are not coming out of our pocket. Equipment,
The low salary.
the LoSAP,
There's 6,000 a year.
the
Just right
physical,
there.
you know, the physical. So, I think it's a good idea to go for the grant.
I put 15,
Yeah.
make it 10.
I was not gonna.
No
say
commitment
that.
after 4 years, because I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I think we should go for the grant and see what happens. See if this works.
Let's try it.
I'm gonna need someone to make a motion.
Well,
All right, well,
did you
Can-
want
well,
to say anything?
can we like fine tune our motion? Because like, I think it's worthwhile.
Wait, we're not- that's out. That's my fire. Okay.
Recruitment and retention is important, and our firemen put in a lot of work, fire personnel, so, and a lot of training. And I think it's important to support that, and to have a grant to do this, is, I love grants. You can't pass up money, right? So, but with the stipend part that we're calling like the pay for call, I think if we put that in as a pilot test program
I
to
don't think you
review
can.
later. No, if we're including that in the grant, if they apply for it because we don't know, like, if we're going to get all of it, right? If you,
They can reduce things, like, they can go
they'll,
and say,
they'll
what-
change
like,
things around.
I asked for 18,000 for physicals, they can go and say, we're only gonna give you, $1,000 a person, they'll only give you 3,000 a year instead of 4,500, they surely
So
can.
then,
But I agree with you, like, there's decisions that need to be made. This is a good way to collect some data.
and depending on what is awarded, we might have to rethink some of the, like you said, if they change the lines or whatever. But the bottom line is, do we go for the grant and try to start this program, see what we get, and then how can we best take that to help them with their needs and help our community with our needs of having a dependable, functional fire department, professional fire department of volunteers. Right? Yeah.
Well, but 30, 25 from capital improvement, 5 from miscellaneous.
All right, are you guys ready for a motion, or do you have more questions?
I'm just figuring out where we're getting.
Yeah, we just
I
trying
mean-
to figure out where we're getting this money from.
Well,
We figured it out.
see,
Okay.
so, all right.
And
You always
I
have
need
a-
something,
you always
and
have,
I
like,
don't
a
have it
stash somewhere,
in
don't
the it's gonna take a minute.
There you go. May I get a motion for this issue?
I'd like to make a motion that that we, so how do you want me to say it? That the fire department, New Milford Fire Department, we,
Need a motion for the,
Authorize the application.
Yeah. Authorize the app-
Presented.
okay, what she said.
okay, yeah. Okay.
I know, that was a lot.
Make it a second.
Second.
Make it a roll call, please.
Councilman Sanders.
Yes.
Councilman Solomon.
Yes.
Council President Dunphy.
Yes.
Councilman Gronsky.
Yes.
Councilman Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Craig.
Yes.
All right,
Start writing.
get going.
All righty.
Let's turn that computer on and go.
Thank you. I think, the last thing I'll say is, clearly I think we'll have, a lot of work to do together on the overall ordinance and what this looks like over the next 4 years. I think it would be best, obviously, for all of us to put a committee together to focus solely on this, like we've talked about in the past. I know I've spoke with George Adeline in the past, and he was willing to sit as a unaffiliated person on that committee. I could follow up with him again and see if he'd still be, just so we have some, if we wanted the say of a layperson in making recommendations.
Right, let's go, come on.
Can I ask you a question? Did anybody do a resolution of,
I just saw that.
well, come up with a resolution for support?
We're gonna, listen, I need a motion to take a
I'll follow the.
I need motion second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Like, we have a 5 minutes.
5-minute break. I know. You know, I swear to God.
I'm on my trial right now for like 2 weeks. I'm like, that's why I'm like.
Oh,
This is really the average.
You probably.
Ready to roll. Okay. We're gonna go to item number 2, council committee reports. Duff.
Okay, you know, I just wanted to talk about this with everybody. I'm one of the repeat offenders. I have always given my report, you know, live at a meeting rather than like book report style. So I was thinking, you know, maybe we could revisit the idea of giving our report during our meeting. Now, I think we, at the time, went to, you know, hand it in because there were a couple of council members that would come in with like 4 pages of, you know, comments to read into the record. So if we can come to a balance that says, you know, we've got the mayor reading events for the month, each of us could do, you know, a short paragraph, you know, a short speech about our month, and you know, eliminate the written reports. That's really all I wanted to talk about. I think everyone's reports are great, and I love hearing them, I have to say. So if it's going to be recorded, then more people will hear it. I don't know. I feel it's more effective. So that's all I wanted to say.
I like doing both. You know, until maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we just did oral reports.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, some council members went on and on and on, and our meetings went on and on and on. Some of those meetings lasted until 11 or 12 because the council reports went on.
Some of them are still going on. And that's true.
You know, some of the council reports would end up, you know, altogether would take an extra 40 or 45 minutes. And so it was decided at some point when Ann Sabrisi was the mayor, and I don't remember exactly which year, I think you may have been on the council, maybe you were at the time too, to just limit remarks at council meetings to just a few highlights, just a couple of minutes each, and to put all the details in greater depth, you know, into something written so that people would be able to access it. And I think it's actually more accessible when you write it because it's appended to the minutes, which are then put on the website, whereas otherwise they have to, you know, go to find the video and then wade through it to find the remarks, which tend to be brief. And most of us, when we give our oral reports, refer to notes anyway. So it's not, it seems to me it's not that so difficult to just transform that a little bit, put in, you know, a capital at the beginning of the sentence maybe instead of just a little note, and add that to the minutes, because that way it's more accessible to the public. And I believe in letting the public know as much as we can. They should know as much as they can about what their elected officials are doing, in my opinion. And it doesn't really take all that long, I don't think. Once you get into the habit of it, and you can do it as detailed as you want, or not too detailed, but perhaps a little bit more than you just mentioned at the council meeting. Because some of us, it's very hard sometimes to just limit your remarks at the council meeting to a few highlights. Some people still go on a little longer, not as much as some previous council members, however, who shall remain nameless, but forever in our hearts, right? So I kind of like it, and I guess I'm somebody who pretty much does it most meetings. I do miss a meeting once in a while, but I would say I've done it pretty much, and I know, Randy, you've done it. Some people have not, But I still think it's a good idea. Whatever we can do to keep the public informed, to me, is a good idea.
The verbal reports are transcribed into minutes.
Briefly.
It's just a matter of
Briefly.
I mean, we should be, your report should be what you think the public should hear. It doesn't have to be a complete, everything that happened at the committee meeting, because all of those meetings that you go to are also open to the public, and they also take minutes.
I remember when you were on the council and you submitted your written reports, they were quite detailed.
I know.
So, now that you're saying it could be different, yes, it could be, they could be shorter
Yeah,
too.
I think the live streaming and the recording has been a game changer. That's where people see our meetings. You can see the views after our meeting a week from now. You can see how many people watch our meetings. I think, whether or not you want to actually write them and submit them, even though they're going to go in our minutes, I think we should be at the point where we're saying more.
In the minutes, it's still the highlights that you represented. Sometimes there's more detail that is maybe not it's not quite a highlight, but actually gives more information to the public about what is going on in that particular liaison. Unless you want us to start, giving the entire report with all the details, which is just going to lengthen our meetings, another 40 minutes.
Well,
which we don't want.
There's no written policy on this. This has been, it's a council thing. We're going to do what you guys decide to do.
Right. It was changed once. It can be changed back or not. Yes.
Things change with the times, right? This was the change that needed to happen 9 years ago. And now we're at a point where it doesn't need to change because
Well, maybe it needs to change. It depends on what the council members think.
It might need to change because of
or might not.
where we are now. It might not. We're going to find out. You're up. Do you have an opinion on this?
I have no opinion on this. It's fine if I feel like the highlights are good and everyone has access to committee meeting minutes. As you pointed out, everything's open to the public. So if people want more information, it's accessible.
Committee meeting minutes? Are they posted somewhere? Committee meetings of your minutes for your committees?
They're posted. Aren't they available on the borough website?
They're not posted for all the committees. No.
Not for all the committees, but they're open to the public. People can attend. People can make phone calls and ask. And so I don't know if someone wants to add supplement to the minutes. That's fine with me. I just don't want it to be. I guess my curiosity would be
and the substance.
Is it a requirement? Because some of
substance is subjective.
Because sometimes, because
what you think is substance, someone else may not, and there's no requirement of how much you actually have to say.
No, that's absolutely true.
Right.
True. But I remember reading yours.
Yeah.
And they were thorough.
They were.
As mine are. I try to make them as thorough as possible so that people really have a good idea of what's going on.
Optionally add them.
And we might have only read each other's.
Optionally include them.
Right.
I mean,
that could also be a policy. Well, not a policy, just I think it should be optional. Optional. If it's something, a major meeting, something, whatever, the council person has the discretion to say, I should write this down.
Well, it's unfortunate that some council members have never filed a council liaison report. Despite voting for it at every public session.
They're voting for them to be filed.
Yes.
But they're not voting that every single person does one.
Technicalities.
That's the way of the world, isn't it?
I think we have the online video, and people.
So you like optional?
I like optional.
I don't have a strong opinion either way. I therefore agree with optional.
Councilman Zollner.
I agree. Optional.
I will. Optional. Okay.
Put me down as required.
Okay. Everything's long time. So schedule of events. Oh wait, we're on budget. I'm sorry.
Take it away, Ira.
Item number 3, budget. Okay.
Well,
Do you have a
just start by
handout?
saying I did circulate the draft, prior to the meeting of where we were at and noted a few things that we were planning to change, in that email, based upon some of the things we talked about tonight. A few of my committee members and I briefly discussed other options of what we could do in order to make that happen. So originally, we talked about cutting capital improvement by 25,000 and by cutting accumulated absence by 5,000. But in order to accommodate the additional funds for the grant application here and additional funds for public events that I was not aware about, we need to try and come up with another $5,000, which I suggested that we could take out of the miscellaneous equipment line, which is somewhere where we find the need occasionally to we added it in a few years ago, and it turned out to be a good thing because we would find ourselves during the year in need of certain things that we didn't have a budget for. And Diana said, you should probably just put a nominal amount in, and this way you're covered. And it also becomes a line that we can transfer out of when we need to make transfers at the end of the year.
Because you can't anticipate every single emergency.
Right.
Like,
So
we lost a snowplow. Yeah, we lost a car in a flood.
currently, we have miscellaneous equipment in the budget at 15,000. I suggested that we could drop that to 10. We're going to drop accumulated absences to 20, and
25.
capital improvement we're going to drop to 25% to 225 from 250. That was the discussion of the budget committee when we talked on Friday, and I think we also circulated the capital budget proposal, which included all of the requests and the things that we thought should be covered for this year. I mentioned briefly earlier that there was a request for $26,000 for security cameras for the DPW, and it was something that we wanted to fund, and Diana pointed out that we have capital money that's already appropriated from 2022 that is going unused. And she suggested that we could amend that ordinance to cover that one expense, and we could take it out of this year's capital budget.
Thank you.
Take it away, Ira.
I thought they had cameras down there.
They're 10 years old, and they need to be
They're going to be incorporated into the police department also.
But they do, it's a useful life of 10 years, and they're already beyond their useful life, so.
Click your iPhone.
Before I say anything, does anybody have any questions about the budget? Everybody
Well,
says-
I'd love to look at a worksheet. I have nothing in my hand.
It was sent.
It was sent by,
It was,
Oh, I didn't get it.
I have a question.
Sorry.
I see that the library has been given, of course, the library has been given its 1/3 of a mill, but I understand also that you're taking back $125,000 this year. Last year you took $100,000 back, am I correct, Matt?
No.
Oh, how much are you
The
taking
goal
back?
was to have them become self-sufficient over a period of time for their medical coverage, because they're supposed to pay for all of their expenses out of their third of a mill, and they don't currently. There are other things, including payroll, some insurance costs that we cover for them as well. So we've slowly been trying to increase it so that they would be self-sufficient as far as their medical benefit coverage.
So how much are you taking back then?
125,
You are taking, so, but last year was 100.
yes.
So what accounts for that difference?
They're still not at 100%. They're still not covering 100% of their cost.
So how much is the borough covering? If they take this $125,000 back, are they then adding money to that?
Yes.
All right. I also have a question on the capital budget. Under the library, there's some things that I know were on the list that they requested, but actually they're not really library issues, and I see none of them are getting any money anyway. But one is the curbs. The curbs are nasty out front, but that should not come out of the library budget. Those curbs are owned by the borough. Same as the parking lot lights last
We
year.
didn't say it should come under the
Oh, I know, but it's listed under library.
buildings and grounds.
Buildings and grounds.
Okay,
Angie.
okay. You're right. I'm sorry. Didn't see B and G there. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. The capital budget request were approximately $1,634,000. What we're looking to fund is $864,650, not inclusive of the 5% for bonding and legal fees. We did a pretty good job on that. As Chris said, $25,000 is coming from a prior grant, plus also we had in there the GIS mapping. Originally was $95,000. It went down to $40,000, speaking to our bond attorney.
That's coming out of that though. That's not in the capital budget anymore, the 40.
Yeah, it's not in the capital, it's coming out.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's coming out of that. So, that will be, part of, capital.
Numbers. 775.
775, okay, I'm using my other sheet,
And
yeah. Which is less.
24.9 from.
24.9 is
From the capital
going to
improvement.
come from capital improvement, okay? We originally had capital improvement at 250, we cut it down to 225. We had about 22 left in from the prior year, which would have given us 270. Now we're taking out 24.9 from there, so it'll bring us down to,
We're in the 180s.
it'll bring us down to the 180s because we're using 5% for the other
For the-
things. So we'll
bond
have
Can you tell me what that is, please, instead of just numbers? What's
what
the
is-
capital
Capital
budget?
improvement
Yeah, what is it?
Capital budget that we're
For what?
proposing
is,
is 350 for a road program, 345,000 to replace the dump truck, 18,000 to retrofit two
Oh,
signboards for
thank
the
you.
police department.
Yeah.
Are we replacing them or getting two new ones?
no, we're
Retrofitting,
Retrofitting.
and then 51.5 for fire department equipment and 11,000 for a mower for recreation.
A what?
A standing mower for recreation. Lawn mower.
For the fields.
Oh.
Yep.
So they own it, but we staff it, so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak. But DPW uses it.
And then there's an
A
additional
DPW owns it.
16,000 for the fire
Maintains
department.
it.
DPW maintains it,
Staff
but
it.
it's used for the field.
Right.
Correct.
And
Again,
an
this was
additional
sent out last week,
16,000
everybody.
of equipment for the fire department.
Sorry, I wasn't here.
I know.
You know, like a lot of times you're not here. Yeah.
And 8,900 for the health department thing.
Thank you.
You know, some of the things the library has requested that are under buildings and grounds have been there for years, years and years,
They
and
just
they
wait
have not
till
been
we introduce
addressed.
the budget.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I said some of the things for the library that are under buildings and grounds have been requested for years. And
Yes, we had a conversation with the library. They came in to talk about their budget. One of the things we talked about was the fact that they put in a list of things that they want, but part of requesting capital funds is you have to have an estimate of what those things are going to be. So we're going to have continued conversations with them. We wanted to talk to them. Some of the things we were talking to them about the possibility of using some of the money that they have in their surplus and possibly funding some of the rest of it out of future capital budgets from the mayor and council. But we need to have more fleshed out information in order to make decisions about the things that we can and can't do.
well, if it's a building and grounds, then would that be Vince Cahill working with the library to come up
Always.
with these estimates? All
Always available to assist, yes.
right,
And that's been offered.
because he has the expertise, whereas the library doesn't actually. But it'd be nice to get something funded for a change. I mean, I don't know if you've used those bathrooms, they're dreadful and they're not ADA compliant. The windows are from the 1950s, and the cement pads are pretty bad outside, and so on. So maybe next year we can
I
actually
think
get
the
something.
priority is the windows and the doors.
I would agree with that. And then the bathrooms after that. But as I've said before, you know, it's a borough-owned building.
Right. And we recently, it wasn't too long ago, we did the roof and the parking lot.
Yes.
So
Yes,
we do the
parking
best
lot
we
was a
can.
nice job,
Right. Everyone here tries to keep
Yes.
the budget down as much as possible
of course.
because the Milford's so expensive to live in.
Yeah.
Everyone has the same challenges, and we work really hard. It's really hard for them.
But these few things have been on the list for 10 years. You know, I'm just.
I remember when the floodlights outside were on the thing for 30
But
years.
there were things on the
Yes.
list that were funded, like a circulation desk, and there have been other things that were funded.
Well, the library paid for a good part of that. That wasn't so much from the borough.
It was part
library
of our
paid for it.
capital budget.
The whole thing?
I don't know what the whole
No,
thing cost,
I don't-
but I remember it was
I don't think so.
somewhere
I
in the
thought-
area of $25,000.
It was expensive. I do recall.
We do
I
include.
know.
We don't neglect the library.
Okay, if you say so. That's not the feeling at the library.
Well, then they can come here and tell us that.
I am.
I don't know, I thought we had a really good meeting with them. It went very well.
I guess it's good if everyone takes the election, because we don't give everyone everything they want. We can't.
Everybody does feel
We
that
have
way.
to.
Everybody we sat with got cut.
I never feel that way.
Listen, it's a challenge every year.
Yes.
And, they're always hard decisions.
Any other questions about the budget? Okay. At our 26th meeting, our auditor will be here for introduction.
Yes, that is on my
Oh, I'm sorry.
report.
Okay, sorry.
But it's not like it's giving anything away. Yes, we're going to be introducing it at the next meeting on the 26th, which is a Wednesday,
remember.
in order to accommodate the auditor's schedule.
So we come here on Monday, we won't be here.
March 25th, right?
Yes. Okay. Item number 4, schedule updates. Okay, here we go. There's a lot of them. If I forget something, I'll ask you at the end, so just help me out. Okay, Friday, March 14th. Is annual Empty Bowls fundraiser, sponsored by New Milford High School Art Department. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. at the New Milford High School cafeteria. I know it's $15 all you can eat, and you get a student-made bowl, and all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds go to the New Milford Food Pantry. Saturday, March 22nd, is the Battle of the Bands, sponsored by New Milford Wrestling Foundation. It's from 7 to 11 p.m. at the New Milford YMCA. On Thursday, March 27th, is the 2025 Gala, sponsored by the New Milford Education Foundation. It starts at 6:30 p.m. at the Alpine Country Club. For more information, or if you're interested, you can go to nmefgala25.givesmart.com. On Saturday, April 5th, is the opening day parade, sponsored by New Milford Recreation and New Milford Little League. Matt, do you have a start time on the parade?
I'll find out from all that stuff.
Starts at the old ShopRite parking lot, and it'll go to Kennedy Memorial Field / Conley Field. On Saturday, April 12th, is the Easter Pancake Breakfast, sponsored by the New Milford Athletic Boosters. It's from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the New Milford High School cafeteria. At the same time is Recreation's annual Easter egg hunt, which starts at 10 a.m. on Knights Field. So they're working together so people can go to the breakfast and then go out right to the egg hunt. On Thursday, April 24th, is annual Black Poster event, sponsored by the New Milford Municipal Alliance and Alumni in Recovery. It is from 1 to 5 p.m. at the New Milford YMCA. On Tuesday, May 13th, is Suicide Prevention Symposium, sponsored by the New Milford Public School District and NJ45.
What was that date?
That is May 13th.
Thank you.
It is from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the New Milford High School auditorium. On Monday, May 26th, is New Milford's annual Memorial Day Parade, sponsored by the Public Events Committee. It's from Knights Field to the Borough Hall, and 9 a.m. start. And on Saturday, May 31st, is the second annual Arts in the Park, sponsored by the New Milford Arts Committee. It is from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Knights Field Pavilion. Okay, so we need to confirm the opening day parade time, and I'm pretty sure the Memorial Day parade is at 9 o'clock. If that changes, you have some time, I will update that. Is there anything I missed? For real?
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Administrator's report.
Dave has my report. The 2024 audit is underway. We've been feeding the auditors a lot of information that has been forwarded in advance, and they will begin their on-site work next week. As mentioned earlier, the 2025 budget introduction is going to be at our next meeting on March 26th, and the next meeting is Wednesday, March 26th at 7 p.m. That's my report.
Any questions for the administrator? Okay, resolutions. Everyone has a chance to look at them. Are there any need to be pulled for further discussion and/or vote? Okay. At this time, I would ask for a motion to open to the public.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding the good and welfare of the Borough of Milford, now is the opportunity to come forward. Seeing that no member of the public wishes to come forward at this time, I would ask for a motion to close to the public.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. May I get a motion? Oh, actually, one thing before we go into closed. So, I saw exciting news. Did you see in Milford? Milford was awarded to become a Revolution, New Jersey town, community. So in the email, they had sent us this graphic, right? I added New Milford. So what I'm proposing is I would like to make a couple of street signs that are the same size as the Milford's 100th anniversary signs, so we can post one at River Road in Newbridge, have one on the entrance from Ordell to New Milford, and I was thinking of actually putting one next to the cemetery. So, what do you guys think?
Nice idea. I like
These
it.
are the banners, or these
No,
are the metal signs?
This would be
That
a sign.
What does that say under
It
Revolution?
says, Revolution, New Jersey, engage the past, shape the future community. So New Milford is a Revolution, New Jersey community.
How many communities have been designated as such?
That, I don't know how many.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Throughout the state.
Yeah. They're
Throughout
really
the
pushing
state, but how many in
Yeah.
Bergen County?
I mean,
I'm
you
sure-
have to adopt a resolution
Right.
just
Yeah.
to say that you want to.
The county is.
And we
Oh, I
started
know
a
that.
committee.
I know
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I know that.
That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we have such a history with the railroad.
That's what I'm saying. Is everyone okay with a couple of street signs similar to our size of our
Absolutely.
100th anniversary signs to put in the entrance of
Absolutely.
New Milford?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
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 I need another $64 in the budget.
I don't know.
That's going to come out of Vince's
Yeah.
operating.
Exactly. We can tell them tomorrow.
Two bags of fertilizer down.
Make a motion to adopt resolutions 2025:94 through 2025:101.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go into closed session. At the end of closed session, when we come out, this body will take no action, and we will immediately adjourn the meeting. May I get a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Have a good evening, and start enjoying the spring. That's sprung.